Hello and welcome to Talks with Lakeisha. I am your host, Dr. Lakeisha James. Today I have the pleasure of having a conversation with Daron Franklin, aka Coach Frank. Daron is the creator of F42 Empowerment. He works with individuals who are determined to achieve success by creating and reaching their goals. Together, he helps clients build and celebrate small wins that grow into greater gains, which transfer into life-changing moments. Welcome, Daron. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. Excited to be on the talk with Dr. Lakeisha today.
Listen, the pleasure is all mine. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you today. So, the first thing we're going to do is what is F42 Empowerment? I think that's really a unique name for a business.
Well, it kind of came way by a brother of mine. I call him my brother. We've been knowing each other since around 1995, actually 95, 96, in high school here in New Orleans, and we were opponents in high school, and then we went to college together. And fast forward 20 years later. He saw a speaking engagement I was doing early on with F42 Empowerment to some students out of school out in the Dallas Fort Worth area. And he said, man, that's F42 right there. And I was like, man, tell me a little more about what you're thinking. So obviously the F comes from my last name.
I,
And
you know what? I was gonna say F stands for Franklin.
right.
Love it.
And then the 42 is my college jersey number, hence my college teammate brought that up. So put it together. Gerald Campbell, he came up with that, and man, I owe him dearly for that idea, and just kind of ran with it. So, and I wanted to make sure that as I was coming out of being a former teacher and educator, that I continue to, impact people and not just be a speaker, right? But also to be able to empower people to go beyond the edge and elevate to higher heights.
Listen, I love it. F42 Empowerment. Ah, I love it. I love it. Now, Darren, you're a former football coach. What was that experience like? I think coaching football is just amazing. But what was that experience like for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dr. Lakeisha, it was almost like, receiving, I'll call it a natural high. And what I mean by that is
I
very
love it.
gratifying, right?
Mhm.
You want to go back every day. So obviously, if it's something like that, it's something that you love. And I'll tell you this, I got started in New Orleans, but the way the universe happens, I broke my hand in college my last year,
Oh,
right?
wow. Mhm.
And I was always a coach on the field, playing my position, even since the early days at Milne Playground in New Orleans. But nevertheless, the coaches were like, "Hey, man, you're going to be out for the rest of the season. Can you help us out and come up in the box?" So if you ever attend a football game, you'll see the press box, and then you also see the coaches up there, right? So I went up and I was telling them like, "Hey, this is going to happen. This is going to happen," and it happened because I was able to see the field from a different vantage point,
Mhm.
and from there I was kind of hooked. And the next year, as I was continuing to chase the dream been a professional football player, which I was for 2 years in the arena football leagues. I started coaching at O'Perry Walker High School in New Orleans, and from there it just really took off. Anytime kids came back to me every day like, "Hey, coach, man, can you show me this? This worked." It's just the gratifying aspect of things that really hooked me to continue to keep coming back for almost 20 seasons.
20 seasons. Ooh, wee. Was your dad a football coach or a type of
Yeah,
coach?
so my dad, as I talked about Milne Playground, my dad was kind of he was an assistant coach on the first team that I played football for.
Mhm.
And funny moment that me and my cousin always laugh about. I played with one of my relatives at Milne Playground, but my dad used to take the 64-ounce Gatorade bottles and had the orange tops, and put a hole in the top, and
Oh,
that what our water bottles were. And we laugh about that periodically, man. But he's no longer with us. But at the same time, yeah, he was my first coach, and he always believed in me and supported me.
I love it. You know what? My daughter, my oldest daughter, she's 27. She'll be 28 this year. I remember being a coach for her soccer team. And I never thought that I'd actually be a coach for a soccer team. I think that was
Mhm.
just where I left it when she was younger. But I'm
Yeah.
doing something totally different now. But I get where, if you see like your father, someone significant in your life, doing something like a coach or maybe a teacher, that
Hmm.
you usually follow the footsteps of that. So that's beautiful that he was your first coach. I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've had the pleasure to coach my son in high school when I was a head football coach, and
See? Mm-hmm.
maybe we can get to that a little later. And then I also had a chance to coach my daughter, as you're kind of mentioning, in her park league, rec league basketball team. So that's always fulfilling when you have a chance to coach your kids.
Really, it's another type of bonding because you're a
Yep,
parent and then you're a coach. So it's different. You have to have that line between coaching and being a parent. And
that's
sometimes
true.
they just don't get it. But I love that though. So is it safe to say that you're a coach on the field and now you're a coach off the field? I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's definitely safe to say. And even though I hung up the whistle,
Hmm.
I definitely get the fulfillment and gratifying feelings from being able to, mentor and coach people and help with their development.
I love you say hanging up the whistle. I love that. But you're still coaching. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, what happened for you to pivot from a football coach to now, not necessarily a business coach, but you're a coach, like you said, helping men
Hmm.
develop their
Yeah.
leadership skills. What made you pivot from that?
I'll tell you what, and for your listeners in the
Mhm.
audience, if you think of a life coach, that's basically the realm of what
Mhm.
of what I am now. Because again, teaching and coaching in so many communities, right? I've
Mhm.
taught in urban settings all the way up to affluent and rural settings.
Wow.
And kids are kids, and even developing adults as a
Mhm.
leader of two of those organizations. But I knew that I wanted to do something more from a sense of just being able to make an impact, right? So
Mhm.
Dr. Lakeisha took a leap of faith and was at a pivotal moment in my life, actually. I knew that 2023-24 was going to be my last year. And I also was going through a divorce. But at the same time, going into a new relationship, my lady, she said, "Hey, I always hear you helping people and helping younger coaches. Have you ever thought about speaking?" And I was like, "No." She sent me some information, and I conducted a speaking engagement at the current school where I was at, right? At the school at that
Mhm.
time where I was at, to the softball team, all girls. That was my
Oh,
first one.
girls.
Yeah, that was my first one, right? And instantly, it felt like I was about to go run out the tunnel to either play in a game or coach in a game. And then
Mhm.
afterwards, the feedback that they gave was something I already had been doing, right? That's how I felt.
Mhm.
And I could see the looks on their faces. They spoke to me all the time through the rest of the year, seeing me in the hallway, just sharing a couple of things that from that moment had helped them out in the little time that we had. So I felt like this, instead of being confined to one community, now I can speak on stages around the world and help people to go beyond the edge.
I love it. You know, the most important part, well, not to me, and I'm sure the listeners that are listening, the most important part that you listen to your woman. She saw that in you. And you was like, you know
Hmm.
what? That makes sense. Let's do it. And it worked for you. Like we as women, we bring out the best in our men. Not saying that you guys don't bring out the best in us, but we kind of see exactly what you guys don't see. And then you guys see what you guys see with us. But I commend your woman on taking that leap and just seeing that in you. And just look at you now, like traveling around the world, speaking and
Hmm.
just making different impacts. Listen, I love it. Shout out
Yep.
to your woman wherever she is. Shout out to you.
Oh yeah,
Love it.
she'll hear it. She'll hear it.
I love it. I love it. So, what is the doubter believer and lifer model? I find that very interesting.
So, thank you for being intrigued by that, right? So that kind of goes back again to a lot of my experiences with developing young people, and you come across all kind of kids, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of our kids, and especially those young people that I specialize with, those young men, ages 17 to 29,
Hmm.
they have had some time in their life, in their young life, where they were a doubter of themselves or their abilities, whether if it's athletically, personally, professionally. And then at some point, they also have believed in themselves, right? Or they want to. And then as they're kind of growing into those later 20s, they start to kind of get into their professional and their personal lives of being
Hmm.
fathers, husbands, partners, and their career things, and they start to become lifers. So with the DBL method, the doubter believer lifer, I just talked about, a couple kids who doubted themselves, but there were adults around. For instance, the young man Drew, who I talked about, was a doubter, and basically just being that middle school kid that we all can relate to, who he just felt like he was in an awkward space. His parents were really worried about him. He didn't have many friends. He didn't even play the game a lot
Mm,
online. He
mm,
always wore a hoodie trying to hide from everybody. But his math teacher believed in him and saw some things in him, and they even invited him to the trial for the middle school basketball team. And
wow.
with those athletic lessons, Drew actually became a believer in himself. And his athletic coach and his teacher taught him about small wins and how those small wins can turn into life-changing moments. So I just use a couple of stories to be able to help young people to be
Mm.
able to see themselves going beyond where they currently are, having some vision, and also helping them with understanding that, man, it's okay to be where you are right now, but you don't have to
Absolutely.
stay there.
Absolutely. And I think everything we go through in life is necessary for our journey.
I
It may
agree.
not look like it at this moment, but as you get older and progress through life, like, you know what, I remember now why that happened. Now I understand why that
Yep.
happened when I was 15, or when I was 17, or when I was 20. Great point. Great point. So do you coach males 17 through 29 because that's where your moment started for you at the age of 17? If not,
No,
why does it start at the age 17 and go up to 29 for
I
you coach?
got you. So I'll kind of use two things to help out with that. I'll go with the latter part first.
Okay.
The 17 to 29, as I, started to begin a business and coming out of the education field and going into entrepreneurship, you learn something every day, right? I'm
Mhm.
always a lifelong learner. And as I continue to build this business, I found out that, hey, man, you have to have a target audience, right?
Yes,
And coming from education, where you always helping everybody, right? Because no matter how they show up, you got to be Coach Frank.
that's it.
Whereas in business, though, unfortunately, not able to help everybody because then you'll be able to help no one. So what I found out is along that cusp of that age, about 17 to 29, those young men, and I work with young ladies also, but specializing with those young men, obviously being a former football coach. And some of my players, when they saw me speaking on stage, they would reach out to me like, "Hey, coach, man, I miss you." And it's not the thing that they miss me from an athletic point of view, but they miss the guidance and the mentorship,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
now they fit into that age range because I mean, over like I said, almost 20 years, those kids are now within that age range. Some of
Mm,
them remember me from, just recently coaching them. Some of them remember me from 10 years ago.
yeah.
And they just need that guidance now as they transform into a different phase of their lives. So
Mm.
that was the reason why I chose that age group. Again, I don't want any of your listeners to, be intrigued by F42 Empowerment. Like, well, man, he can't help us because we don't fit in this age range. No, it's not that. But from a business standpoint, you want to have that target audience. It,
Absolutely.
for myself, I think for me, it started around age 15, Dr. Lakeisha.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, for me at age 15, a moment that I can look back in life, as you talked about, just kind of growing up in New Orleans and being raised by a village,
Hmm.
and part of that village kind of extended into the faith community, into the church, right? And then within our church, man, we were exposed to uh, an organization called Tambourine and Fan. And
Okay.
with this organization in the historic Treme area, Sixth Ward in New Orleans, the leader was Jerome Ducks, Big Duck Smith. And this guy was a former freedom fighter, civil rights leader. And basically, at the age of 15, the mayor in most urban cities, you'll have the mayor offices, they offer youth jobs,
Hmm.
right? So my first job at 15 was at the Treme Center with the Tambourine and Fan Summer Camp.
Wow.
And from there, I learned all kind of leadership skills. I learned how to stand up for myself, for my sense of. We went on protests, learned
Hmm.
about different kinds of civil rights beyond just Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, but other people and different things from a guy who had lived through it, right? And then also you learn more of the infused New Orleans culture into why and how the rhythms of the beat from the drums and the sounds of the horns influence us so much. So I would say that for me at age 15, a big pivotal moment was being able to work those 2 summers at that summer camp in an area where I learned a lot of leadership skills. In fact, he also took us to 21st Century Leadership Camp in Alabama towards Atlanta area around the mid 90s.
Wow.
So yeah, that's where it kind of started for me.
Well, I love that. I know this day and age, this has gone on for centuries, that there are a lot of single parent households, a lot of single mothers with children, and they just don't have that male figure. So I think for your story, it's like the males gravitate to you because they need that male figure that they don't have at
Hmm.
home. It may, the uncle may not be available, their parents may have, divorced, but I think they're gravitating towards you because of that male figure that they need in their life. You're able to give that to them as being a football coach and just being a teacher, just your influence. I think it
Yeah,
seems like your personality is very gravitating towards. I love that. I love that. A lot of our men need that male figure because, again, it's a lot of single parent households with women raising, attempting and raising males.
yeah, and I would say that those moms are really they're doing the best that they can do, right?
Absolutely. Hmm.
And I'm one of those kids that was product of a divorce, you know.
Me too.
So, right, one thing I share with people and even my clients as I build that rapport with them, and some of them that fit into those categories, right,
Hmm.
is that, hey, man, right around that age of 13, 14, my parents separated.
Yeah.
Now, my dad didn't stop being a dad, nor did my mom stop being a mom. But naturally, my sisters and I, we went with my mom, right? But I still saw my dad just about every other day, spent time with him. But the thing that you're talking about that helped me to stay on that track was I had a village of people around me. I had
The village
uncles,
is
I
very
had
important.
cousins,
Hmm.
and they helped both me and my older sister and my younger sister so that we didn't fall off track, our grandparents, right?
Hmm.
But just like you mentioned, some of those young people who are dealing with some of those things now, they just don't have that village. And
Yep.
that's where, Coach Frank comes in with that 42 empowerment again, not just the teenagers, but those young adults too,
Hmm.
who just need that one-on-one coaching, that one-on-one mentorship. Because a lot of moms, I heard Jason Wilson and Mel Robbins had an interview, and a lot of moms are concerned about their 20-something-year-old kids, young men, their
Wow.
sons, right?
Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and again, that's where I come into play because that's a pivotal moment.
Hmm.
If you can do okay and survive in your 20s and acquire some skills,
Yeah,
right? Acquire some life currency, is what I also call it. Then you can put yourself on a good trajectory towards your 30s and 40s.
I agree with that. I agree with that. That's great information. Great information. Now, the CAN is an acronym for Choose, Activate, and Navigate. How did you
Mhm.
come up with that acronym? I think that's pretty cool.
Well, it ties into a lesson within the Beyond the Edge framework.
Hmm.
Pretty much every day I get out in nature and I either do some walking lunges
Hmm.
or I, just do some walking and, I do a lot of listening to different personal development aspect of things as I drive, back and forth. But as I was getting ready for a luncheon earn that I had a little while back, I wanted to add something on to the module of the three S's of success. And as we're talking about those young people, I
Hmm.
wanted them to know that yes, you can choose how you're going to do certain things,
Hmm.
but your choosing allows you to show up. But
Oh.
then when you show up, right, you have to activate and start,
Hmm.
right? Because the showing up is like your ideas, man, I want to
Yeah.
do this, I want to do that. So you get to choose that, right? But it's just going to stand still or stay there in your brain unless you activate and
Hmm.
start. And that starting is probably the most challenging, right?
I
But
agree.
then after that, it goes into, okay, I've started. How do I get to where I'm trying to go?
Hmm.
And that's where the navigation comes in. And along that way, we want to be able to create and celebrate those small wins. So it's the CAN, choose, activate, navigate, but then choose our way to success. And if you notice in the word success, there are three S's. And that's why I use the show up, start, and small wins.
I love that. And I like to say, do not despise humble beginnings. That small beginning is a humble beginning.
Hmm.
Never know what's available to you on the other side. I love that. Thank you, Darren, for sharing that with me. That just
Yeah.
made my big toe jump in my head. Like, it's so
I
exciting.
gotcha.
I got another one for you though. What is the PCL method? I thought that was very interesting when I came across that as well.
So look, the PCL method, and I just shared that with the Louisiana Association of
Hmm.
Students Assistant Programs at their annual conference in Lake Charles back in February. But I developed that from coaching also, right? Because as a freshman coach at St. Augustine High School in New Orleans, I was the freshman head coach, and
Hmm.
man, on the freshman team, you want all those kids to play because you never know what they're going to develop into, right? And you would hate to lose a kid. And
Hmm.
2 or 3 years later, you playing against him on the other sideline because he didn't play as a freshman and you never know what he was going to do. So fast forward, I found out that if you can find out what kids' interests are in sports,
Hmm.
then you'll know how to coach them, right?
Oh, that's good.
Some
Hmm.
kids really just want to participate. They just interested in just hanging out with their friends, sitting at the lunch table with everybody, having the girls come by and smile. They really don't care if we win or lose. They're gonna show up every day.
Hmm.
You know, they're gonna do exactly what you ask them to do. Now they might mess up a few things, but at the end of the day, they good people, they good
Hmm.
kids, and they just want to participate. They want to have that sense of belonging. Well, that's the same thing in organizations.
Mm.
You have some people who are just a participator. They're gonna do exactly what their job description says for them to do. They might have a wealth of experience, but that's it. Don't ask them to go beyond what they've already normally done because
That part. Other
they're
duties assigned or
yeah,
something
their
like that. Yeah.
their capacity for them to them
Hmm.
is where it is. And unfortunately, here you have some participators in your organizations. But as leaders, if we can identify who our people are, it lessens our frustration and it helps us to be able to pull out their abilities and their potential to be able to get it towards the success of the organization. And then you have the contributor, right? So that
Hmm.
contributor person that see that's a person that always has a lot of ideas. That's a person that puts forth a whole lot of effort, some extra effort. And that's a person who kind of, I would use a basketball terminology since we're in March Madness. That's that person that can come off the bench and fill in right away for a starter, right? If they had six people starting the game off in basketball, that would be the sixth person. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, we got five, so they understand their role. They can star in their role, and they make a lot of contributions. However, they like to go at their own pace, right? And what happens in organizations is sometimes we see that sales performer, that top performer, and we try to make them a sales manager.
Ooh, that's good, Darren.
Yeah, just because they can understand how to sell to
Hmm.
customers doesn't mean that they know how to duplicate that right away and manage people.
That part.
So now we put them in a situation where they
Hmm.
burn out or they leave the company. But as a leader, again, if I understand that they're a contributor, I can project like, okay, hey, I'll work with this person to help them along into that role of leadership that they may want to get into, but I don't want to force them and over push them, and then I push them out of the way. And then finally, that lifer, that's the person who reminded me of some of the kids who I coached. No matter what I did from a strategic standpoint, they had the talent to go out and do what they needed to do, right?
Hmm.
And the same thing in organizations. You have some people who want to be in a leadership spot who are going to do what they need to do no matter what. They're intrinsically motivated. These people are also the ones who will be able to help and pull up those participators and contributors. And these are the people who, if I can identify right away as a leader, I know I may not have them for long,
Hmm.
but I know that I'm going to be able to help them to get to where they want to go because they're going to help the people that's within the organization. So those lifers are the people who are your superstars, your all-Americans, all-stars within your organizations. But again, as the leader, if I can understand which category my people fit in, I know
Hmm.
how to develop them and lessen my frustration along the way.
I love that. PCL method. I love that. I love it. So, Darren, is there anything new that you're working on? I know you travel around speaking on different platforms and making an impact. Anything new you're working on? Maybe writing a book?
It's something that I'm definitely considering.
Hmm.
Definitely considering, especially as I continue to have a chance to impact more lives and work with workforce organizations and different organizations to help with the development of people. Here in the near future, I just about every month I host a lunch and earn. And
Hmm.
what we'll do is I'll make sure that your audience members are able to visit my website
Hmm.
and www.daronfranklin.com/lunch and earn, and they can register for the monthly lunch and earns. And it's just a little short 30-minute deal where hey, you come in and you can bring your lunch, bring your colleagues with you, and virtually we get into some of the framework of the Beyond the Edge and give you a little something to ponder about, give you some tools to bring back and help with your personal and professional development, and even allow you to want to be intrigued to continue the conversation with me, to find out more about the F42 Empowerment experience. So that's what we have coming up here in April. I'll have that date released soon.
Okay, great, great. Well, Darren, we can go on and on about the great, amazing things you're doing around the world, but thank you so much for your time. And you know what? You're doing some amazing things. Congratulations on and I really think that you're living in a purpose right now. You're
Yeah, I
doing some
appreciate
amazing
that.
things, and people are just responding. It's great when we are on stage and people respond, right? They reach out and say, "Hey, I want more of that. I like when you did
Mhm.
this. My life's changed because you did this." So, kudos to you for making an impact and changing lives one day at a time, one life at a time.
Yep. Well, that's what it's about. That's what it's about, just
Absolutely.
being able to do that. And I talk about the four P's, and I'll finish with that, just kind of plan, purpose, places, and people, right? And if you
Wow.
think about those four words and how you can just put in moments in life
Hmm.
of, hey, we all set a plan to do certain things. You might have to adjust it as we go, right? But then you talked about the purpose and being able to find out what our purpose is in life,
Hmm.
and then the people who help you, right? And then the places, and not necessarily the places that we're trying to go, but
Right.
places that we've been and how they've impacted our lives.
I love it. The four P's. You guys heard it. You guys heard it. But thank you so much, Coach Franklin, for appearing here on Talks Lakeisha. I am your host, Dr. Lakeisha James. Until next time, you get real conversations and real information. See you next week.
Bye bye.